Okay. I'm calling to order the April 26th Transportation Committee meeting. For the record, could we please go around the table?
Warren, Small Business Manager.
Dane Ocasonio.
Connor Kurtz.
Carol Bites.
Scott Foster.
Richard Martino, member of the public.
For the record, there are several other members of the public here as well.
Miller.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Michael Miller, Assistant Business Manager.
Sorry, Mike.
You're in the dark.
Exactly. I didn't see you there. It's so dark over there.
You're gonna miss the bus.
All right, so I think everybody knows that the first order of business today is presentations on the software. So we have a presenter here to speak about bus tracks. So Dick, if you would like to take it from here, that'd be great.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm Dick Sinclair from Bus Tracks. Your district is currently using Bus Tracks to manage the transportation services, primarily from the standpoint of Ron is the current user of Bus Tracks at one of the customers. What I'll do is I'll take you through and show you some of the features of Bus Tracks. Any questions that come up, feel free to raise them at the time that they come up. It's not going to interrupt me at all. I've got a few points that I want to make, which I've written down, but I'm very flexible. So feel free, you won't be interrupting me at all. Plug my complicated. Now, Laura, do you think it'd be helpful to pass this out to board members? This is the email I sent you with just some points. Okay. Okay. Our system was designed to be extremely easy to use with a very short learning curve. And the reason for that is if there's a problem, like an accident, and staff are out at the scene of the accident, any secretary should be able to open up Bus Tracks with very little exposure to it and answer questions. Plus, you can take a copy of Bus Tracks in a notebook or a very small device to the scene of the accident. Also, when a parent calls in, all you've really got to do, if the transportation people are not available and there's a question about a student, you simply go to students and you'll see a list of all of your students. Gotta change places. So if I'm only down, you know what I'm talking about. I'm only down to two pairs, one for normal use and one for the computer. Okay, so anyway, here's a list of your students. And you can access any student, anything you want to, just by clicking on it. And if a parent has a question about what bus is my child riding, or more commonly, a complaint about the bus is too full, or the, the child's on the bus. Why is he riding the bus for an hour in the afternoon when I live right across the hill? I would say check your child and find out where he might be going. Instead of, he's not really riding the bus the whole hour. Instead, he's probably going to see some friends at the mini mart or something like that. But basically, this system is geared to maximize your reimbursement as well as to allow information to be easily obtained from staff members. And we put in, you get paid for 2 bus assignments, to and from school. Now, the child may be riding 4 bus assignments. Then you get paid for that also. But basically, you get credit for providing transportation to the educational facility and back home again, whether it's a late bus or whether it's a normal, regular bus. You get paid for all that. Bus Tracks will keep track of that. And the number right next to the child's name is the number of bus assignments assigned to that child. So immediately you can see if there's somebody that has no bus assignments, and here he's got an R code, so he is a rider, but we don't know what assignment he is, and there's a little code here early, I'm not sure what that means. That's a user-defined field, so that it means something to Ron, your contracting. Here's an early withdrawn student, but basically, this child is assigned to 3 buses. And is that clear? Is it readable for everybody? Okay. You've got student information from the top part. And this typically is driven by your attendance system. So that once somebody puts in a student name, address, phone numbers, and we can have up to 99 different contacts, each contact having up to 4 phone numbers and an email address. Seems like every year we've had to expand that, so it's like a telephone book now. But if you need to get a hold of a parent, you can simply go in and you can look at student contacts. In this case, there's only one, and that's the phone number for the one. But you have the ability to have up to 99 different priorities and have up to 4 phone numbers and an email address. Now, the tabs simply break up the information so that it's easier to read. Like an address, we can have up to 3 different addresses. And each address can be found on the map either by the human address, which is 29 Furlong Road in this case, or the lat long on the map. And all this is a position on the map. It shows you where that address is. Now, we have special needs. You can, if you're transporting special needs kids, what kind of requirements do those children need? This is optional. If you have notes about a child and you want to track a pattern of behavior or particularly an IEP student, you can simply copy and paste all the text on the IEP if it's in electronic format, and it will be, history will be satisfied for that student for as long as you want to keep that history in the system. In other words, it could be wiped out each year, or it could be the entire history of the student. Events, this is where you have, typically it's being used to register problems. And if you see a pattern of behavior problems in an afternoon bus or with a particular driver, this will collect those problems, the event, and then the response. And you can simply click on it and see what that is, what the event is.
Now, could anybody, like say I was a building principal and I interacted with students who the driver referred, like who would be the person to fill this in?
It could be either, well, all the building secretaries have an option. They can either have a read-only version of bus tracks on their desk, which means they could not enter anything. However, they could see everything, they could print all the rosters. The read-only version simply removes the green button down here, which is the save button. So they have almost complete access to the system. It's just they cannot make changes for control purposes. Now, if you wanted a principal to have access, that's fine too. It's really a matter of what rights you want to assign to each individual as to what version of bus track. I mean, it's the same version, it's just some things are locked out.
I guess my question would be that for our district, who has access here? So, like, are we actually using these features is my question.
Ron has primary access because he's the one that's using it.
All right.
But as far as the building, just the secretaries that read only, as far as I know.
Well, my question, I guess,
Scott Matz, of course, has access.
in terms of discipline, if I were a driver, and maybe Rich could help answer this question, if I were a driver and I had a really troublesome student on the bus, I go to the school, I tell the principal, or I call up the principal, how does that work? What happens?
I have no idea. There used to be paper forms, I don't know if they still do. You still have paper
Yeah,
forms?
there's a paper report form that goes to the building principal.
So I guess it's more, we're still using paper, I don't know if we, I don't know,
Only
something-
Roberts has a computer thing that the driver would enter.
Right. And if you want, I mean, clearly, even if there's paper, right, you could scan it or whatever.
Yeah, I
and
mean, I
put
just
it in here,
wonder
just
if
like
we-
a
yeah.
historical record if you wanted to, but. okay.
Basically, we have three buttons, control buttons. The back goes to the previous screen, save goes to saving which changes you made and then goes to the previous screen, or cancel takes you back to your main menu, which we were just in. I'm going to go back. This is, okay, this would allow you to have several functions available to you. For example, if a new student came in, let's just pick somebody. And I'm going to go to this rider screen. These are the current bus assignments down at the lower part. This is the part that's only put in by, in this case, Ron would do it. He has complete control over accessing. And if you click on one of these runs, you would see a bus assignment record for that child. And he can have any number of bus assignments, so that you could actually have a student that leaves the district, so you put an ending date in right here. And it's important for reimbursement purposes to track the number of rider days that each child is on a bus, because that's part of the formula, greatest number of riders for your reimbursement with Harrisburg. To maintain the system, all you do is put an ending date in. And it would then look, in this case, at River Rock Academy, every school or each program that you provide transportation to has the availability of a calendar, which tells the system whether any day is active or inactive. You can make comments about days, because we strive to prepare for an auditor coming 2 or 3 years down the road. So we have several places throughout the program so that you can remind yourself why this child left, or there was a snow day. And you can actually close all of your schools in one shot for a snow day and put that snow day on another series of calendars that would mean that the buildings then would be active. I didn't explain that very well, but that's you can do that in globally or individually. Now we have the ability to reinstate an assignment. We have some districts where there's a lot of movement, people leaving the district and then coming back, and it seems to be some districts are very stable, others have all the time. So we have the ability to reinstate a rider assignment. We never delete a child just because he's no longer riding the bus. As long as he's ridden one day in a given school year, you get credit for that. So basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. We have down here, a parent calls in, a secretary picks up the phone, and there's a specific complaint or a question. Most likely it'll be about how long the kid's on the bus. In this case, he's on the bus for 41 minutes. He gets picked up at South Furnace and Brook Manor. Now, you have an option of putting drop-off stops in or not. Either way, we can track, but what we do is if there's no drop-off stop, we consider this child riding till the end of the run. So. And then the other thing is riders. We have a total of 16 riders on this bus. Excuse me. So if anybody complains about the bus being overloaded, you can tell the parent that, well, we've only got 16 riders. It's not overloaded. Yes?
Is the minutes on the bus an entry field, or is that calculated by the software?
It's calculated by the software, and it's based upon, I hit the drop-off stop. These are all the stops on this particular run. Now, in this case, we have no kids that are getting dropped off. Everybody is being picked up at these various locations.
Right.
That's what these numbers represent, and these numbers represent, and this tells you the total count. And everybody is on board that bus until the end, so there's a total of 16 kids. Bus Tracks does not know that those 16 kids actually got off at a school, because it thinks those 16 kids are still on the bus because there is no drop-off point, which is fine, because we just consider, okay, we know at the end of the run, kids are probably going to be taken off, so
Right, right.
it's just an assumption by the system. But anyway, if you click on any of these, you'll notice that this child now is expected to be on the bus from 7:04 to 7:27, which is 23 minutes. Now, this is an existing bus assignment. Suppose that you don't have an existing assignment for a child. You could go to Place Student on Bus. And let me apologize for the skew. This table is crooked. So everything I see is like that. But anyway, I tried to put some stuff underneath the projector, but it does look a little awkward. So anyway, if I'm going to place a student on bus, I simply click on Place Student on Bus. And then if you know what run and what stop that child's going to go to based upon his home address, you could just select the run and pick one of these runs, and then select a stop and pick one of the stops from that run. However, we have automatic ways to do that also. If you wanted to, you could tell Bus Tracks to look at the neighbor's bus assignments to suggest to you what might be a logical bus assignment for that child. So if I click on this, I now have a target address of 220 Hay Creek Road, and I want to assign him to an AM run. So I'm going to click on this, and it just so happens there are only 2 kids that live on Hay Creek Road. There's the child who has already been assigned, that was Anthony, and then there's another child that lives at 216 Hay Creek Road. The system detects what the closest address is. And if you wanted to use that, you could, or if you wanted to select another one, you could just assign AM, and it warns you that you're using a different assignment. Excuse me. So anyway, you can do this with either the home address, the first alternate, or the second alternate. Typically, people use the second alternate as a grandmother, or maybe a daycare center or something like that. And you can have any schedule you wish, like all 5 days, or you could just do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if you wanted to. That way you get credit for that child riding the River Rock Academy program schedule only on the days Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. It defaults to every day of the week. Now, you can identify the fact that a child is normally transported by car. And the reason you would do this is you actually get credit for a child, even though you know he's never going to set foot on that bus. Because he might be a high school student, he might have his own car, he could be a kindergarten kid, and the parents drive him. But for Harrisburg purposes, you get credit because you're obligated to transport that child. For scheduling purposes, it's handy to know whether this particular child typically drives. And when you're printing out a roster, the default is not to show this kid at all. You can say, I want to see the kids that normally drive. Or you can say, I just want to see those kids. And that way, during the summer, you can make adjustments to the capacity or the load factor of your bus. We have a lot of comments that you can talk to the drivers. You have a rider comment so that you can, if the comment's specific to a run, like a kindergarten kid in the afternoon, don't let them off if the mother's not there. Or don't let them off if the father's there, or whatever. That's specific to this run, and you can toggle that comment on or off of the roster for the driver. Or you can use these roster comments for every bus the child's assigned to if he's allergic to bee stings. So this is student activated, the other one was student on a particular run. You can, well, do things like early registration, but I don't want to get into too much of the detail because I want to show you kind of an overview of what's available. So if you wanted to, let's see, everything is available. This is a nationwide map. And what I did, just to illustrate, understand that you were thinking about possibly moving groups of kids that attend one school to maybe attend another school. And Ron was telling me a specific example would be the AEC. The AEC kindergarten kids are going to Monocacy. And so I said, well, that's fine. What you can do in that respect, you can simply go into Bus Tracks and tell it, we have a graduation path. And this graduation path tells the system what to do, and it takes the old grade the child's going from and the old school and puts them to a new grade at a new school. Now, all I did was I changed, this used to say AEC, went to AEC first grade. And then the little Y's and the N's on the end tell it whether you want Bus Tracks to reassign the kid to a new vehicle or not. So if the kid's staying at AEC, well, MEC is an example, then you're not going to reassign them to a new bus, so there would be an N in there. If you wanted to reassign them, you'd have a Y here. It's very easy to do the year-end procedure. Once the graduation path is established, it takes everybody, and if they're not involved in the graduation path, it simply moves them up a grade, keeps them on the same school, and keeps them on the same bus. If they are, and there is a Y in here, say a fifth grader at AEC going to sixth grade at middle, it will check and see if it can suggest a middle school bus for that child. And I did a graduation for you guys, and it was under a minute. Then it went through 4,000 kids and graduated them, moved them to new bus assignments, and then it tells you who it's moved. If the movement is caused by movement between buildings, it'll tell you what the old building was, and I'll show you what that looks like. All of our data is available in Excel format, and you can update globally in Excel and move it back into Bus Tracks. We do that a lot. I mean, somebody says, well, I really want to change, my run names globally. I want to do something to them. Well, you can do it very easily in Excel and then move it back into Bus Tracks. I'm going to Excel. Now, when you do the year-end procedure, it will produce a report like this. And it tells you anything that has been done to a student that's traumatic, like these kids were withdrawn, so they were removed from the system entirely, taken off their buses, and removed from the student master file. Remember I said you can, when you withdraw a child, you do not want to delete them, because when the auditor comes, oftentimes they want to see, okay, you told me there were 25 kids on this bus. Show me on a given date. Well, you can do that with Bus Tracks. However, if you go on down, now you'll notice the new grade for high school kids that have graduated, they're all asterisks. They were not assigned to new buses. So we'll get down through these high school kids. Okay, here's some. Okay, here's middle school kids going to high school. Now, if you slide over, you will see the original location of the bus stop and the original run, and the fact that they were reassigned to a new route, in this case H62A, and the pickup point is Pleasant View and Farm View Court. Now, if you see an M in the match column, that means the new pickup and the old pickup are exactly the same, so you don't really have to worry about those. The ones that you need to double check would be the ones that say, this is Glenwood and Poplar reassigned to Greenwood and Magnolia. Does that make sense? It may or may not. All the Bus Tracks is doing is making the best guess it can make, but then what you do is you use this as a worksheet and kind of verify that, yes, that is close by. And in this case, he was assigned to, from M59A, stop 9, to H58A, stop 14. So that
So
was...
what that's picking is a stop that's already in the system.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, these are new stops. These are current stops. It's working off the history of that neighborhood and selecting what it thinks is the best new assignment. Now, you're going to find, particularly with this AEC kid that's going to be going to MEC, it found some. Let's go down there. Okay, the new school is MEC, but notice the status. It could not find a lot of these assignments because in reality, these kids were assigned to AEC buses. There were no MEC buses in this neighborhood.
Right.
So
So there's no stops that exist
exactly.
nearby already.
So there was no logical suggestion that Bus Tracks would say, this is what I recommend you do. And it did, surprisingly, it found some. But basically, you use this as a worksheet, and it's very easy to make changes to that worksheet.
So in a situation like this, Dick, where clearly we're going to have to generate new stops, how do you do that?
Okay. What I would recommend, and we do this with Bus Tracks, we can do a route analysis for you, but we use the same equipment that you have, the same software, and we'll teach you how to use it. So some schools would like us to do that so that we're the fall guy. And we actually attend board meetings where the announcement is made, we're going to change bus assignments. And sometimes, particularly rural areas where they have a lot of mom and pop contractors, when we go in to do a job, we don't want to know who owns what bus. We just want to tell you this is the most efficient way. You know, bus 1 is going to be doing this, bus 2 this, bus 3. And these are only suggestions, and we work with you to find out if you agree with the routes that we've assigned or suggested for assignment. But it's a team effort because we don't know your area. And it's quite possible, all this does is mathematically calculates the shortest route. It gives a number assignment to each road segment and looks at the speed. Doesn't know too much about traffic conditions. So traffic in the morning might be prohibitive, whereas traffic in the afternoon for a particular route might be good. So all we do is we'll meet with you. If you want us to do it, we still have a good bit of input from you guys.
Does it, as an input, does it ask how many buses you have and what the capacity is in terms of routing? You know what I mean? Like, is it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
What it does, Bus Tracks knows the capacity, and it knows how many kids are at each stop. So what we do is instead of looking, now I've done it for you guys, I think I've done it both ways, maybe just the homes. But anyway, I put all your homes on the map. typically when we do a route analysis, we put all the stops on the map. Because what we're doing is collecting groups of stops. Each stop represents a group of children. So a stop might have 5 or 10 kids.
Right.
So we'll look at, and we're doing one now for Danville. They wanted to cut their time on the bus to 45 minutes. Right now, they have some kids that are riding over an hour. But if you look at their geographic area, it's very reasonable, because what we did is we took the kid that lives farthest from a given school and found out that you could do a straight run from that school, from the house to the school, and it might be 30 minutes.
Right.
Well, we can knock that run down to that 45-minute limit, but you might have 10 or 20 kids on that bus.
Right. Yeah.
And the problem is, the contractors have already gotten all their buses, and they're 72-passenger buses. So they give us these requirements, and then we work and we say, okay, we can do it, but you're going to have a very low
Right.
limit.
And that's why I wondered whether it was automated in terms of if I could give it a bus roster and capacity, it could essentially optimize both the routes and the capacity constraints at the same time, right? And that's just why I asked whether that was.
Yeah.
I understand you can do it manually. I'm simply saying I wondered if there was an automatic way to do it.
No, and I don't, well, for us, no.
Right,
What
right.
we do is we show you how many kids are on at each stop.
Mhm.
And you can also tell the time, and I'll show you what that looks like.
One quick question, just
Yes.
as an aside. Well, because it's related to the question that we just
Go ahead,
asked.
sure.
In the situation that you just described where you're changing a route, right, because it takes too long, the current route takes too long.
Right.
So the district has decided we want to have shorter, we don't want to have any routes, like you said, over 45 minutes, for
Yes.
instance. Does it show what the cost difference is in terms of reimbursement of changing the route from,
We can tell you what the mileage difference is.
Right.
We can tell you what the reimbursement rate would be, and the reimbursement formula, I brought a sample of it, it's pretty
yeah,
complex.
we've seen
We've
it.
seen it.
Okay, good. So anyway.
Unfortunately, we've seen it.
Yeah, more than you want to. Right? Okay, it takes into account the capacity of the bus, the age of the bus.
Right.
And
The
then it
laden
takes into
miles, right,
account
exactly.
The mileage, the approved miles with and without kids.
Right.
And,
That's why I wondered if it just would, if the software would tell us, if we change the route from, if the old route had 54 kids, and now we're changing the route, so now there's only 18, because that's what we need to do to get the time down. Can we quantify what the difference
yes, you
in
can.
cost is?
We can run,
In reimbursement cost, not in,
right. You bring your new runs and run it through bus tracks. And it knows the distance, it knows the distance, but the distance is really, it's map-driven distance, which isn't exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Matter of fact, it's a little bit shorter
Of
than
course.
real distances.
Yep.
So if you want to run it through the Harrisburg report, we can run it through using the map distances, because we don't know what the real.
Yep.
Now, we do have the ability, you can either enter mileages in odometer entries as often as you wish. The Harrisburg recommends 8 times a year. That's only a recommendation, it's not a mandate. We found, matter of fact, this might be a good time to show you. I ran the same data for, this is a real school district. We use what Harrisburg calls a sample average method. And we can, let's give you this one first. Actually, I don't have anybody to grab me by the neck because I talk too much, so I want to be sure and, get out of here in time, basically. So feel free to say you're running out of time.
Thanks.
Okay, Okay.
If we have enough copies and people are interested, would you mind
Here's
giving them to the?
Before you go too far, Dick, let me ask you a different question.
Sure.
This is an individual bus number.
Yes.
You have every child and their addresses in the system, correct?
Correct.
How do you push a button and get the most efficient bus routes?
That's my,
That's really what we want to know.
Okay, I'll show you. Let me pass these out, then I'll just very briefly talk about this now. Show you.
Thanks, Dick.
Sure. Okay, at the top, do you see monthly or daily maximum?
Monthly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have monthly?
I do.
Okay.
I have one.
All right, let me, those of you who have monthly on the top, that is the same data as those of you who have daily on the top. It's just that the daily one is presented so that you can catch errors, because it shows actual mileage every day that the vehicle was on the road. And you'll notice the formula is the second page. I won't go through that, other than to say the approved reimbursable cost on the monthly for this particular vehicle was $40,000, $484. On the monthly, no, that's the monthly. Who's got a daily? Okay, the second page. Same bus, the approved reimbursable total is what? $34,000. That represents a $6,000 increase in approved reimbursable total, and that's the only number that you can that you have an impact with.
Right.
Harrisburg then takes that number and does some manipulations. However, this is a special needs bus, and that's why there's such a big difference. These people had daily entries because this special needs bus had different mileages every day, almost, and different rider counts. And with the monthly average, it evens out, and it says, okay, on January 5th, we had 25 miles. On January 6th, all the other days in January, we only had 10 miles. You get credit for 25 miles for every day in January. And that's what the difference is with sample average versus regular. It doesn't have much of an impact on a regular bus, a static run that doesn't have all these changes.
Yeah.
But on special needs, it does. Okay, now let's go to the map because you raised a question about that. Okay, okay, notice the little boxes down to the bottom down here? The one I'm going to click now, DB Home, these are all of your kids. Doesn't matter what school they go to, and I elected to put in the address of the child. So that, and notice that they're off the road a little bit, because that's where their houses are physically located. This is done by lat longs. So when you're doing a run, it would actually draw what I would consider the driveway to the closest road, and then calculate an actual route on that road, collecting these particular kids. These are home addresses. We normally do, for route analysis, we do stops. But it's the same idea. The only difference is, and I broke it out by different schools. This is AEC. So these are AEC kids. We can use different graphics, different colors. We can break it out by AEC 5th graders if we wanted to. If you'll notice that, I made them very small dots because it's a subset. But anyway, you can turn these kids on and off, any groups you want to deal with. Now, if think of these dots, and I'll show you what's in that dot. Let's just take BEC kids. This is all the information from Bus Tracks about those dots that you see. And these I've isolated by just one school. But you can pick one of these. And that push pin represents this child. We'll make that a little bit bigger. Emily, it looks like, Cresswell. And all the information about Emily Cresswell. Now, these are the homes where these kids live because I was looking at it from the standpoint of determining what groups of kids might belong to a particular attendance zone to go to a specific school, not runs now, just where they live and how we're going to group them around a school. Now, in a route analysis, we would put the Bus Tracks information would be broken up into stops. And I go to a map, and we're going to locate, I did it by students on the map, so I don't want to do that. I want to locate stops and routes on a map. So what I can do is I can pick any of these runs I wish, including whole groups of, I could do the whole thing if I wanted to. Just by highlighting all of them. I'm just going to pick a run. Does anybody care what run? Let's see. I want to pick one with your, okay, this is MEC going to BEC, I guess. Is Vanguard a
No, it's a special route.
special route?
Just do BEC or MEC, one of the regular schools.
Okay. Let's do this one. 104P2?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Bus Tracks is student-driven as opposed to bus-driven. What that means is that you can put a kid on a bus without putting them on the map if you so desire. And I'm going to, this is going to be 104P2. As an example. Now I'm going to import that file into the map. And it's located in a bus track folder on this machine. Okay, now this is the file I just generated. This only has all the stops for one run. And this is a little wizard. It allows me to select things, like I can tell it what I want to put on the map. So I usually use Bus Tracks ID, which is the run it came from, and the stop number, and the number of students being picked up or dropped off, and the total number of students on that stop. Now this particular one is 0, but you can see we have some down here that are 2 kids are being picked up. So I'm going to put the Bus Tracks ID, and you can make this any graph you want. I'm just going to keep it with it where it is, with flags instead of push pins. And you can make it different colors. Okay, now it's putting those, and what it's doing is it's geocoding them by address. Now, I'm going to turn off these other ones so we don't. Now, the question was, how does it know how to pick these stops up? And I can look at, see who is, or information about that particular stop down here, just like I could with the home addresses. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a run. Let's just, looking at, I'm just going to put it anywhere. Okay, we're going to create a route. Pretend the school is here. We're going to make it a start. That could be a bus garage or whatever. And let's make the school up here. Okay, that is a direct route from the school, well, from the bus garage to the school. Now, suppose we want to pick up these kids. And these kids are really represented by stops. So a stop with one green flag could represent 2 or 3 or 4 kids. But what you can do is simply go and highlight all the ones that you want to put on. And then right-click, and it's going to create a route, insert a stop. Okay, we've now told the bus to go from here up to here, picking up all these stops.
So should I wait out here?
No, yeah, no, please, come in.
Okay, 10 more minutes. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Except you injected the stops manually.
I collected them, well, yeah, it geocoded them in a group.
Yeah, but I mean, you decided which stops you wanted to put on this run.
Oh, yes, you can,
We thought the computer would pick the most efficient run.
given a series of stops. And what we do is we would,
You just simulated
yeah,
dedicated
I
stops.
just,
You did,
yeah, I didn't really,
or real-time route.
yeah, like
route.
the one school that we're doing with the long distance, we would pick the farthest stop going to a particular school, get that straight run, and then include all, we have the ability to look at all the stops within a radius of something, or along the run of something. So if you had a straight run, and you say, I want to put all the stops in that are a half a mile on each side of that run, you could then see how many kids are involved and what time it would take to run that run. And then you would start removing stops if the time was too long, or the number of kids was too short, or, whatever. But basically, the tools allow you to form a radius around something. You can handpick things if you wish. You can remove them if you wish. Like you would say, I want everything within a third of a mile of this straight run. And then you would just simply say, okay, that's too many kids, or the time is too long. I'm going to start removing some of these. And as you put them on the run, it takes them away from the library of all your stops.
But if you went into all of the students attending Birdsboro.
Yeah. All in the
Rich
fifth
is
grade.
saying, here's all the students in Birdsboro, now show us the optimal runs, optimizing runs.
Okay, so you would see a series of stops servicing Birdsboro. I mean, the elementaries.
Could you bring up on the screen right now all the Birdsboro students?
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going, and I think I know what his answer's going to be. I mean, I think the issue is that, I mean, you can do it. If you can do it while I'm talking, Dick, please,
Okay.
then do what Lauren has requested. I think the issue is that, I think what both Rich and Lauren are driving at is, if there were no stops in the system, if you
Right.
just pulled up the student data, is the software smart enough to say, this is where we would recommend that you would put the stops so that there was the most kids being picked up, the most efficient use of the stops, as opposed to taking the existing stops and then using them to optimize the routes? Do you understand the
Right,
distinction
yes,
that I'm making?
yes.
And I think that's what they were driving at, and it was
Okay,
lost in translation
We can put the
somewhere.
homes on the map, but we can't say, okay, where is the location of the best stop to satisfy these homes? No, we don't do that.
All right, so that would be up to us, Rich. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the bottom
basic-
line is that
So it won't build the routes.
it will build the routes if you're not changing any of the stop locations. If you feed it what the current stop locations are and say based on that, it will do it. But it won't
Well,
look at no stops and then say, this is where we think you should put all the stops and.
Right, unless you say, I want to put a stop here because I see a collection of houses.
Of course,
And then you could.
Of course, we could-
Yeah.
When's the last time district-wide that we evaluated the stops?
Well, did we do that a
We
couple
probably don't know the
years
answer.
back, where we, in a development, we tried to have the kids come to one dedicated area,
Following some stops.
and then we made that a dedicated stop, and then you put that map.
All right,
Yeah,
back to my original question. Bring up all of Birdsboro, then we'll bring up all of MEC right now.
Okay, the homes,
Yes.
Yeah, because Dane, with Birdsboro, we're gonna have to create stops, because where those walkers are.
No, I know.
That are now gonna be transported.
Yes, and the software isn't going to help us with that. We're going to have to look at the routes, figure out where the highest, where the most likely spots for stops are based on looking at the map and saying based on volume, this is where there's going to be people. Yes.
yeah, these all represent homes of your current kids that you're transporting. So you can see groups, now we can.
Having said
isolate
that,
them.
there are already existing stops. They just aren't linked to the school. Those kids are already all getting picked up. They're just not getting picked up and then taken to, right? All the kindergarten kids are already getting picked up. They just aren't being taken to the school that they will be in the fall. So we have the stops. We can feed it those stops and say, based on these stops,
You're gonna have new ones,
optimize the
though.
route.
You're gonna have new ones though, because the kids that live within a half mile of Birdsboro, they're
The
walking.
walk-
Okay, but
140 walk.
it's a pretty small sample size of people that will
Yeah, because
require
we're gonna have to
new
create
routes, that will
stops.
require new stops. The other people, most of the people are already riding the
140 of
bus.
them.
Did you, Laura, did you want to grade in AEC?
No,
or
the
what
entire,
was-
the entire building is BEC. I just want to see it
Oh,
on the map.
BEC?
Just want to see where everybody attending BEC is right now on the big map.
Okay, those are the homes. They're not the stops that satisfy those homes.
Understand, I just want to see where their homes are.
Yeah.
So can you pull a map out so you can see where they are in relationship to 422 or? There you go.
Where's 422?
The
Oh, I
red-
see
red
it,
line.
okay.
Okay, now show us AEC, or MEC.
That is BEC, actually.
Right.
That's BEC, now show us MEC.
He doesn't have any.
AEC is red,
Where's Emerson?
BEC
He
is
doesn't have any C in there.
whatever, or green.
Okay, now where's MEC?
I did not do MEC, but I could. The way to do it is simply take and look at the homes. Yeah, put them on the map. Okay, now what we're going to do is sort by school. And you can sort by grade also. You can sort by any of these fields.
Right.
So if I sorted by school, and selected only the MEC kids, you can select all of these kids
Right.
and bring them over.
Right.
An even faster way to do it
Would have
would,
been an Excel, you just would have.
well, you can go to Bus Tracks and do it. If you wanted to, we're working with the students' homes now. And you could say, I want to only see the MEC.
Right, filter by MEC.
MEC, right?
Yep.
Okay. And this will build a table of MEC kids
Yep.
and put it on the map. Now, you can further define it by grade if you wanted to, or by attendance group. This is used by intermediate units too. You could do district, but this is all your one district. Or you can say, I only want to see the kids that are members of these various runs. So there's a lot of ways that you can visualize what you're dealing with in subgroups. And every subgroup can have a different color, a different graph. You can even design your own graphs.
Right. All right, I think in the interest of fairness, we should probably
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
wrap it up. Does anybody have any final questions for Dick this time? We appreciate you making the trip down
Oh, no
and
problem.
sharing it. If, I mean, someone, Lauren, I'm sure will be back in touch with you. We'll discuss what we're doing and, but we really appreciate you coming down and showing us what it does and at least now I have an idea. I don't think any of us had any real, we knew generally what it did, right, but we didn't have any idea what what it could do, what it couldn't do,
Yeah.
if there were restrictions or limits.
Well, you can put stops on a map, but the reason we use stops, current stops for our route analysis would be because they've been approved by the board. They've been looked at for safety and for,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, no,
all those kind of conditions.
in most,
So that's where we always start with the stops rather than the homes. Because
yeah,
they represent a group of kids.
right, right. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah, thank you.
After all that, they still review common sense. And they'll still go out, obviously, they can shave a couple of blocks.
What was that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
I wouldn't have
I'm,
big decisions.
I'm an Ashworth. So,
Oh, are you?
Yeah, and I'm curious, to some extent I'm curious about the algorithm, if it's linear algebra driven.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things. We're in the process of going to some. We're changing our mapping, using an internal thing.
Oh, yeah.
This uses Google for laterals,
Yeah.
which is pretty good. But anyway, if you want to talk numbers,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. Matter of fact, as I was telling Lauren, I can remote, or you can remote in our system, and I can show you things.
Okay.
So,
All right, yeah, I'll get your number from Lauren if I have, like you said, really touchy, I mean, like really mathy questions.
yeah, I know.
I'll call you and do that on my own time.
I think I know where you're coming in.
Listen to you. I hope it's not. Thank you. This is why before you were here, I knew right there. This is right.
Well, you know, yeah, because there's still continuity with the sense of
My only point is that I actually understand the underlying that
Yeah, thanks for your attention.
Thank you for coming
Sometimes
up.
I talk to I usually have a guy.
I'm in a better position to assess that. Most people aren't. Most people don't know anything.
it's gonna be curious to see.
Good to finally see it, that's for sure. This is our
That's yours.
I mean, ultimately, it just depends. I mean, the thing is that we can't tell. We can tell what software gives us the most options.
Yeah.
Right? And the fewest limitations, but what we can have how good options is.
No one has run something. Right. That's what
Agreed. Although,
Thanks, Dave.
yeah,
with numbers.
it's a good privilege.
Oh, Dick.
I've arbitrarily chose by it's not working. If you believe yeah, I'm fairly confident that
But what if?
Actually, I can hand you your page.
Yes, I was trying to find it.
Yeah.
It's a little crooked.
I mean, it's just
Yeah. When you change the route, can you change the route?
Yeah.
When somebody says this, for too long, you change it. You say you have to leave to go to high school?
8:30 or 8 o'clock.
So that's why I asked the question. What I wanted to know was what someone needs to us and because it becomes a cost benefit analysis, right? We're willing to absorb some costs to bring around.
And then see what those rates are, and that's pretty quick to get.
Right, so my point is just that at the end of the day, we're willing to make the routes shorter in terms of the time and we'll absorb some costs, but there's a cost benefit analysis, right?
I think Ron can do that in an hour.
Seriously, I like that.
Brought 6 of these, I guess I put orange over there, there's 5 more. Here, so you decide who gets some. All righty,
It's not
so
right.
4, 5 board members here. Oh,
No, but
perfect.
what I'm
There
trying
you go. Yeah, there's product guides and CDs in there too.
what has the most functionality, what is the benefit? But it's much harder to value how good the actual optimization is. Right?
I think I have it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So-
I wonder.
Yeah, no, I will. That's who I am. That's a bigger clunk than I didn't anticipate any clunks, but. Carol, this is your call, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. I just was asking.
Yeah.
Not, I know where you live.
Yeah. And I don't.
No judgment to that question at all.
It's fine, yeah, I want it fully disclosed,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not vested in her business. You
No, I understand that.
got her here, that's all I know.
I was just curious.
You gotta sell herself.
Maybe I was just curious.
Yeah, that's my golf buddy. They started Blackwood on
Well,
Monday.
thanks.
We haven't golfed together in 10 years. Since VGA? VGA.
He's a Eagle, running Eagle.
Yeah.
I don't remember who. I don't know, yeah, maybe I just heard on the last meeting.
Right, this isn't, we know this isn't related to that. Yeah, no, you're right, it may well be.
Oh, I got excited about chapstick. Like a mine. Yeah, I just don't want it to die in the middle, you never know.
It does look like this has the feature that Rich was talking about.
For the finance meeting next Wednesday.
The optimizer.
Well, that has it too.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yes. Hold on, let me just write this text, and then it'll take 2 seconds and let me explain.
I wonder how similar they are.
Aaron, I just got back from Preston.
So, if you, that software has, if you speed in the stops,
Yeah.
it will optimize.
Yeah, I'm saying I think this might actually tell us stop, optimize,
Okay,
stop.
okay.
Yeah, which is what I'm interested in.
I'm interested in if the optimization.
Yeah, that's what matters most.
Did we
That's
get
what I
that?
care about.
But I mean,
Other meeting?
just because it does it doesn't actually mean that it does a good job
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
optimizing too, right? Which is,
sure. I mean, but if it does it, it does a better job than the one that doesn't by default. I've
Pick whatever it is.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably.
I mean, I guess there's a chance.
4,300.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the underlying math, right?
But some math, I'm saying, is better than no math.
No, actually, that's
Almost.
Right,
Yeah,
except that the current,
I got it, Lauren, I think, 4,300.
based on just the parameters, like the current stops are probably reasonable.
Yeah,
in most
yeah,
cases,
sure,
right? So,
absolutely.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Stand
I know
by,
what you
does that have to get hit again? Sometimes.
Although it's easy for me to say that, right? I haven't actually looked at
Yeah.
stops at all, so.
No, I think they are. That being said, though, I mean, I have the same
I know
bus
you
stop.
did
The bus stop that I had
other
all
meetings.
12 years, 13 years ago in kindergarten.
It's the only number I
Never
have.
changed. No, it moved across the street when I went into high school and middle school. But that stop is still there now. And that's only because the bus was going one way versus another. So that's been there as long as my development's been in place. It's never changed. Maybe at some
I
point.
mean, I think largely, right, the stops are based on physically where most of the kids are.
Yeah.
Right? And that probably doesn't change.
No, the only reason I think it would, potentially would, is if you have like a development going in with a bunch of new kids and then they all graduate out.
Little high, up high.
Question for you guys. How late are you comfortable with this meeting running?
This would be hard to leave at 1:15, because I gotta go yet.
Okay.
So my agenda item, can we just move it to next meeting?
Yeah, but the question is depending on how long Sylvia takes, is there going to be any time for actually discussing the RFP? Let me just ask Lauren. If we don't,
You can discuss it. Now.
Gotta do that, no? I bet Donald will be fine without it.
No, you won't. My husband just called me out. Falls, there's a line.
And they're all voting for your guy.
Maybe I don't have to talk again.
I wanted to have. I was looking for it, Donald.
Oh, that's so cute.
At 8:01 tonight, Connor's gonna hear that his boy lost.
My girl lost when Carly dropped out.
Do you have any? Well, determine whether I go or not. Do we have any? I gotta go vote.
Going to win.
Seriously, Pennsylvania?
He's gonna win Pennsylvania.
Well, I'm not leaving.
Okay, good, don't leave.
8:01, he's gonna find out he lost. You see tears coming down his face.
We'll be here to console you.
Yeah.
We'll be there to help
No,
you.
I don't want any of them.
You're shattered
I
life.
just don't want Trump to win. That's
You're all
it.
done now. Go Hillary. I saw it, my favorite new sign, Hillary for President 2016.
Yeah.
I love it,
That one.
I love it.
All right, thank you.
I've seen it, it's on the wall.
We'll just keep Carol's item on
He
too.
said something
Yep,
about
exactly.
running, and I said, how are you gonna run the country from a prison cell?
Okay, so
I can stay, I can stay.
I think we're just gonna push all the other stuff other than the presentation, so that,
Okay.
Lauren thinks it's
Yeah,
fine.
we got time to talk about it another
We can
day.
do
All right, we'll
RFP
just do
input by
that.
email if we need to.
Okay,
It'll
Okay,
give
but
you
I
more
just,
time to
I
prepare
don't
your
wanna,
presentation.
yeah.
I don't wanna turn.
I am
it
prepared.
into 3
I don't think we
hours.
can do it over email. It's the only thing, because this is an executive session, I think, for drafting. I don't think, we can't do this over.
Yeah, he can, he can.
Oh, he can send
We can
us
just
stuff.
send, and I think we can just say, this is what I think should be in.
I'm just
If-
looking
if we
for,
don't deliberate.
I'm looking for input.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we
To
can
do
do
my
that.
final draft of the
Oh,
not
RFP.
deliberate.
I
think we
It's
can do
not
that.
anything that-
Yeah, as long as we're not,
We're not, we wouldn't decide the final what's gonna be in, what's gonna be out.
yeah,
We just
I
need-
know we could definitely send him information. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's good
we'll
to.
send it to him and then he'll
do it.
present it.
Exactly, exactly. So we can all just take all the data and then we're gonna pull stuff out.
All
But
right.
like, I'm just afraid of giving our length of each, it's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather not do another one. honestly.
Yeah. There's not.
No offense.
No, that's why I asked. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't-
not up there at 8 o'clock.
I'm a pretty reasonable guy.
No, high school. I have to be at high school.
Okay, so he has to be somewhere at 8
I
too.
have to be in high school.
Exactly, so that's what, I mean, I knew that about both.
Okay, so let Sonia
We're
start.
ready whenever you are.
We need to light.
Just got this cough.
Can everyone see that? I can feel it. Do we need to kill a light?
He's going to be on trial.
No, on the witness stand.
Thanks, Mike.
If you have the ones that go above that,
His family thinks the
switch
world.
on the great.
What's the cost
He'll
of
come
this
to
golf?
appreciate
I
it.
hope so.
How can you use this after you're
They're out in the hall somewhere.
You got it.
No, I don't know where. I know they go outside and do
If we
it.
all sit real still, it'll all go up.
They love him. He's called
The internet, I can work on my phone.
those people out of his.
We could
What
also,
is
I
it?
mean, apparently I threw up the Mayor Bird's program last night, so we have that. You
did what?
Oh, that was, that was a
have you
comment.
priced them both? I mean, are they similar?
Oh my gosh, you're kidding. You did?
Not,
Cops handle that, how they just started coming in all
I'd be very surprised if there's a big range, just because it's gotta be a very competitive industry, right? I mean, and, you know, I mean, if somebody's twice as expensive, I don't think people are gonna pay for it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's rare.
By a year from now, you'll be marketing
508er.
your own.
Some other.
The wheels are turning.
It's conceivable.
Oh, it's you.
This is ballpark only because I'm not sure what the final numbers will be as far as students enrolled, transported, number of vehicles, number of users, things like that. So this is the ballpark. It breaks it down for different options. Like we do software, data conversion, route conversion, training, yeah. So the software itself, more or less, yeah. And then depending on what we do, we train to get all the data in the system.
How much, Scott, just ballpark?
6120, but you can have add-ons that can go
Yeah,
up
but
to.
that's based,
Right,
it's-
right.
like I said, it's based on these numbers here. I don't
Right,
think you guys
right.
gave me updated numbers yet, so, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
it's just, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, just ballpark,
And
right?
there's
I
a lot of
care.
add-ons,
Yeah.
so once
It's
we're
like
done,
any
you know.
software, I mean, you could, there's $16,000 I see there.
Right, right.
Yeah, you can, we have so many add-ons, it's crazy.
Ah.
So you guys would just, you know, and then there's services that we offer too.
That's good, Mike.
Right, right.
Mike, that's fine.
That's good. No internet
Oh,
connection?
yeah, that's good, yeah, because he wanted me to check price. I
No,
just-
she doesn't. She was
Okay.
just gonna look that information up and show it online. Lauren, what is the bus track?
43.
43? Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yes?
Okay, so I'm Sonia Mastros. I'm president of Orbit Software, right here in Pottstown, 424 King Street. We've been doing this for 18 years now. I started off as the bookkeeper and now we own it, so come a long way. We've got roughly 200 customers throughout the U.S., primarily in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, but we do have them scattered throughout 28 states, some in Canada. We're working on a couple international leads. We offer software for routing and scheduling, for GPS tracking, for parent portals, for field trips, for tons of different things, services, fleet optimization, stop optimization, figuring out where to put, place your stops. We do offer that in the program. So there's a lot of different services that are part of the program itself that you can choose to use. or have us work with you, or have us do it and then present. The last fleet optimization, actually fleet route optimization I did was for Souderton. They actually contract with TSI. So they had bought the program, put it over at TSI, same thing as you guys do. But TSI doesn't have anyone working from Souderton at TSI. They actually have, they create the routes, and they've been doing it for years. Souderton actually bought with us, I think it was like 13 or 14 years ago. So they've been with us for a long time. That's when they could talk to. And they had contracted with me to do a fleet optimization to try and, just see, because they've never been doing the routes. They've always left it up to TSI. They'd give them the kids, TSI would create the routes, and they were trying to figure out if there was a way of saving some money. So what I did was they didn't want to stop optimization. They didn't want me to, figure out where the best placement was for the stops. Just basically their current kids, where they live, the stops that were assigned to them already, and come up with generated routes for them. When all was said and done, I take on the middleman kind of thinking when it comes to school districts and small businesses. So I wanted to make it so it was something that it would save the district money, but it wouldn't put TSI out of business. So I kind of, worked things through. I had actually been the company, the person 15 years ago that installed and trained them, because that's how I got started with the business. So they knew me already, and we saved them about $180,000 in just literally a quick. I charged them like $6,000. I got it done in a week or two. It was nothing major, but just like a quick review to try and see if there were some places that they could minimize the number of buses going down the same roads, but then again, not make so many drastic changes that every parent in the district would be calling complaining. So we tried to come up with a middleman. That's pretty much what I came up with for them.
But you're saying you can do stop optimization.
I'm sorry?
You're saying you can do stop.
Yes. Our
optimization.
program has fleet optimization, route optimization, and stop optimization. Route optimization is if you give it a list of stops, it'll optimize a stop order. If you give it a list of stops and all of the locations of your stops, and then you give it a maximum ride time, maximum travel time, bus capacity, seat size, a lot of parameters that you can give it. It'll auto-generate your best routes to get the kids to school on time by the ideal time. We store bell times, earliest arrival, latest arrival, ideal time, and we try to create the routes based on that. And I'll show you how that works real quick when I get into the software. So we do offer a lot of things that are within the program itself. The stop optimization, what that does is you tell it what the maximum walk to stop distance is for your riders, and then we make sure that we have hazardous roads designated as hazardous roads. We make sure we set up unsafe corners or threat zones, what we call places where you should not put a stop. It could be, a really bad curve where the bus is just not going to be able to see the kids, cars. So there's places that we would set as unsafe or sex offenders. If sex offenders are in certain areas, we would mark those as unsafe. So it takes all of that into account, and then it starts looking at placing the stop either at a house stop if it is a hazardous, or a intersection stop where all the kids could walk to that particular corner within that maximum walk to stop distance. So the thing with that is, I know when we're working with Pennsylvania, a lot of times the state police, when I worked with Methacton, they had to have the state police scout the stops to make sure that they were safe. So what they did was, before we did the stop optimization, the police pretty much showed them where they shouldn't put a stop. So then we just marked those as places that were hazardous, unsafe, and then we ran the stop optimization. So we can do that. It's just, getting as much of the information in the system as possible so that it knows better. Okay? So anyway, like I was saying, we do offer lots of services, lots of things that the program does itself, but differentiators between us and BusBoss, and our competitors, I'm sorry, is this is the BusBoss program. Okay, when we give you your program, it'll come preloaded with the counties of areas that you guys service. Right now, I think in here I've got 5 counties, so it's full.
I think I've got Berks, Montgomery, Chester, there's lots of counties in the system. So I've got, all of these are the counties that I have. And I started adding roads outside just to show people that I can add roads beyond our map. So you get preloaded with your counties. So if you service, just Berks County, cool. If you add on, we can do that. The price that I showed you there, that includes 3 counties. So if you, need to add on additional counties, they're $500 a county, but it's once and done. Once you purchase it, you own it. The map data we get from TomTom. Okay? That's the difference, the biggest difference between us and our competitors is we get the map data from TomTom to know the street information, how long the street is, what's the street name, what the posted speed limits are, the house number ranges, things like that. Beyond that, we will get address points from TomTom. So when we geocode your addresses, we don't use around here, there's a lot of parcels, there's a lot of lots where, houses could be 4 or 5 acres, God only knows that. So what we do is it knows the latitude, longitude for where the house is actually located. So that way you know what side of that road where that kid would actually be getting on the bus to determine where to put a stop, okay? So that's how the addresses get geocoded. We use TomTom's latitude, longitude coordinates for every address. Then once that's done, then the rest is us. The map that you see here, it's our map. We've been doing this forever. My husband, George, is our senior developer. He was the one who actually got contracted to start off with in this business, and somehow I ended up involved in it. But he created the map algorithm that you see here. The data comes from TomTom, but he developed the way that this displays on the map. So you see how the streets are drawn in white. You see the county, the background. All of these things can be set yourself though, like if you do want to use different colors to show your local roads or your county roads, all you do is click on it. This is user specific. So whoever's using the system, if you're familiar, you're comfortable using it certain ways, you just change the colors the way you want it to be. So you can set your roads to be different colors, your borders different colors, all different things. Your hazardous roads, your roadblocks, your roads that are hazardous and roadblocks, how they're displayed in the colors, that's all user specific. So the big thing is that you have to remember this is our map, but you can have the satellite view behind it. So what we do is we put in the Bing satellite view so that, I don't know if you guys can see that too well there, but anyway, what happens is when you're looking at the map, you can display your students at any time. Like right now, I can display my student riders on the map. And depending on the color of the shirt, that's what school they attend. That's their address, that's where they live. The stops themselves, though, I can display the near stops. And you can display stops any which way, shape, or form, whatever criteria you pick. But it could be, an intersection stop, it could be a corner stop, it could be a special needs stop, it could be a private stop, it could be all different kinds of stops in the system. But the stops are then located on your map, again, according to the description that you guys provide. So if something happens, we get the maps from TomTom, and I've deleted a couple roads just so you can see what happens. If by chance there's a new road, you can add the road yourself. All you do is click on the add street here, click where you want it to begin, and then just draw it in. When you draw it in, it comes up with the extension of whatever street it's off of, or if it's a brand new road, you would type in your own street name. Unique to us, since this is our map, you can have street name aliases. So like around here, Route 73 and Philadelphia Avenue are 2 different roads, but if the driver knows it as Route 73, he's going to want Route 73 on his driving directions. If the other driver knows it as Philadelphia Avenue, he's going to want that. So on the driving directions, it actually puts both. Turn right on Route 73 / Philadelphia Avenue. So you can have street name aliases just by typing in here, alias, whatever you want it to be, and that's what's going to print out on the driving directions. Okay? Speed limits. This comes from, I must have this set to change that. We just started selling to Canada. So we have to set this to miles instead of kilometers. Let's get rid of that. Okay? So anyway, what I was doing here, I was adding a street. Go back to that just so it's nice and clear. So the speed limits are the posted speed limits that come from TomTom for those roads. But
We know buses don't always drive the posted speed limits. So what we do is we've given you the option to put in speed limits based on time of day. So I know 422 through here is insane. You don't go 55, you go 20. So what you could do is you could put in here from 12 to 6, 5:30, whenever your route starts, it's fine, you can go 55. But at 5:30, 6 a.m., it's gonna go down to 20 miles per hour. So now you put that in there, so from 6 to, 12 to 06, 00 a.m., it's 15, and then you can add on 06, 01 a.m. to, I don't know, when it slows down, maybe 08:30 a.m. And it goes down to 5, and I just picked the back road, that's why it's so, 06, 0, I put a 1 there. 0800 a.m. to now your noon routes are okay, your afternoon routes are going to slow down again, so say they start leaving at 2 o'clock, I don't know when your routes start, p.m., they go back to 5, and then at 05:30, yes, which is bad, 05:30 p.m. till then 11:59 p.m. And then it goes back to 15. So now, and you don't have to do this on a road-by-road basis. I'll show you how you can do like the whole 422, select all of 422 and then do it all at once, okay? This is just showing you when you're adding a road. So now when BusBoss is calculating the time that it takes from stop to stop, or even optimizing your routes, it'll look at those speed limits to see if that is the best way to go. Because of the speed based on that time, that might not be the best way to go. So it won't go that way. It actually looks to see which way the best way is based on the time of day. Address ranges, if you know what the address range is, you can put it in. It's, top right, top left, A to C, bottom, B to D. You write those in. When you add the road, what's good about our program, 11:59 p.m. Finish it. We have a lot of checks and balances in the system. We don't prevent you from doing a lot of things, but we do have a lot of checks and balances that we want to make sure that you're 30, 30 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then 2.
That's gotta be PM.
Oh, yeah. 02:00 p.m. to 05:05. 8:30, 8:30 goes to 15, then back to 15, and then 02 to 5:30, it's 5, and then 5, and then 05:30 to 11:59. Goes back to 15. Am I covering everything? 12 to 6, 6 to 8:30, 8:30 to 2, 6 to 5:30, 5:30. Okay. So now, when you add the road, because BusBoss is our map, everyone on your network gets that street is added. Right away, you can start using BusBoss. You don't have to go anyplace else to manage, to add, to do anything. It's already available for routing. So other things that are unique to us is the ability to do right-sided pickups. If you've got hazardous roads and there's a certain stop that up to 5th grade, they can't cross that road. You set it as a right-sided pickup. Now, when the bus comes, when BusBoss optimizes the best way to get from stop to stop, it knows to get to that stop. If it's doing a route that's picking up kids up to 5th grade, it will make sure it comes up on the right side of the road. If you say it's right-sided for everybody, that doesn't matter then. Every route is going to make sure that it comes up on the right side of the road to pick up that stop. Make sense so far? Cool. Other things unique to us, to set a road hazard, it's right-click. And my monitor's being, things are getting cut off because of the size of your Yes, so there you go. Toggle roadblock, toggle road hazard, set one way. It's just that. It's right click and you make it a road hazard. Right click and you make it a roadblock. Right click and you make it a road hazard or a one way. Set one way streets. These things would come in handy when you have a school and you draw in the road that takes the bus in and back out. Well, if you want all your buses to come in one way and go out the other way, then you set that road to be a one way. So all your routes are going to do that. And these are, once you do it, it's done. It's not something you have to do every year. This carries, as soon as it's done, you do it once and you forget about it. If you do have like a construction right now, 422 is construction, and you set it to be a roadblock, it's going to come up with all the routes that are going through there. And then it'll reroute those buses around that roadblock. Then when you come back, if the road construction's over again, you come up and you say, okay, let's take away that roadblock. Now it'll say, okay, now all of these routes, let's reroute them to go through that roadblock. It's now open. Okay, so it takes all that into account. That's the thing with bus bosses. When we started this, we made sure that it takes into account all the different things that school districts, not truck drivers, not Ehrlichs, not, people that school districts need to route kids. A lot of different things that people just don't think about. What else? So we've got tons of different displays on the map. We've got tons of different, like displaying your schools, your stops, your transfers. I don't know if you have, do you guys route for private school kids? Like, okay, so you have transfers, kids go one bus and another, okay? Well, our routes actually allow you to do unlimited transfers, which means that if you have them coming into a central location, Boyertown, I think, is using Wawa down the street from my house to do that because there's always buses there, but a bunch of kids there, and they'll get off on a bus and then they'll get on another bus. They'll actually taking 3 buses to get to school. Bus will let you do that. It'll auto-assign first-level transfers. If there is only one bus, it'll auto-assign those. But as soon as you have more than one, then you have to make sure that you're assigning your multi-levels. With O&J, hers, she actually has lots of transfer kids that are going to the same school. So it could take her 2 or 3 buses to get all of those transfer kids to that same school. So those, when you have multiple options, it won't auto-assign those. You have to say, you want these kids on this bus, these kids on this bus, and these kids on this bus. Because sometimes there's certain kids that they don't want together. And bus boss can't say, well, I think this one's better than this one, because all 3 are going at the same time, all 3 are going, going to the same place, so then the user decides which one's going to get on what bus. And then we have reports for that. So if you go to the report, student routing transfer by location, if you have people set up at that location to help the kids go from one bus to another, you can give those people standing there this report, and it'll show who's getting off of what bus at what stop, and then transferring to what bus, and what days of the week. You see the weekday usage? BusBoss allows you to have different routing for different days of the week for every student, Monday through Friday, plus split custody routing. So if I'm looking at, let me open up a route here. The way our routing works is it has different kinds of route types. So you're looking at your regular routes, your active pickup, drop-off, half-day kindergarten. You're looking at your historical routes. For the PDE, 1049, you need your snapshots. You need to know what your routes were every, at least once a month, at least, right? So we just restore historical information. We don't delete students, we make them inactive effective the day that they withdrew. So now when you're running your state report, you will have those in your reimbursements. You will make sure you account for those kids the days that they were there. Once you have your snapshot, so you can modify history. If the driver comes in and says, that student was on my bus, we need to put him on there, you can go back in history and put him on. If he tells you, no, he wasn't on my bus, then you can take him off. So you can modify history, make sure that your reports are as accurate as possible. The way the PDE works on here is it actually generates a file that you upload to the state. It preloads all the information on the state website, and then you review it, you modify it, you add other things that you may be doing on the side, and then you submit it. But it doesn't submit it until you say submit, okay? So what we do is we end up having also alternate routes. If you have routes that, like say you have routes that are only public school days or only private schools, because you don't transfer to private school when public school's closed, right? It's just public school's open, you'll take your private schools in. When
Yeah.
public school's closed, you don't
You don't,
transfer to,
right,
right.
right.
So you can have a public school only day where private schools are closed.
Okay.
And then that way you can have routes for those, but it doesn't affect the regular routing. So now you have your alternate routes for those specific days. If Fridays, you have, certain Fridays of the month, everybody gets out early at 12. Well, then you have routes that only apply to Fridays. So you can have different routes that accommodate all the different variations that could possibly come into play. Oh, emergency evacuation. You got to evacuate everybody. What routes do you want to put in place? Because a lot of times, high school students don't ride. You don't always accommodate a seat for that high school student. Some districts do, some districts don't. So you can create evacuation routes that will accommodate for every kid in your district where they're going to get on and where they're going to go to. Create alternate routes for that specifically. So we have all of that functionality.
Can you explain the question that Mr. Martino had earlier about how we optimize bus stops and bus routes? Just like if the information we would have, the street addresses, we plug that into BusBoss, and how does it spit out the best route and the best stops?
Well, for optimizing the stops, there's a tool, stop, auto-locate stops. You say yes. Oh no, locate, sorry, optimize. Tools, all my stops are located, so that's not what it was. Tools, auto-create stops, sorry. Auto-create stops. You pick which ones you want to create it for. So if you want to do it for every school, you can. If you just want to run it for just your elementary school to start off, you can. And this is something that you would be running in an alternate scenario. And for BusBoss, you can have a database for 2015-16, another one for your summer runs, another one for 16-17, another one for your alternate
So you can
scenarios.
compare, contrast, play around.
Exactly. You can plan whatever you want. So when you click where you want your stops, you click which one you're selecting, and then it'll start going through this section. Now, again, we have checks and balances in here. So this is a demo database, so I don't have all kids set to be riders. I don't have all this information complete. But if you look down the list, this is exactly what it goes through. It loads the kids. It determines where all the hazardous roads are. Then it starts creating the hazardous road house stops first. Then it creates your wheelchair house stops. Then it creates the threat zone house stops. Then it combines duplicates, because you may have stops in the system that, like right across the street from each other. One corner here, one corner there. So it'll combine all those, and then private stops. Some kids have to have their own private stop. So it goes through all of this before, okay, fine, let's say these are the stops that we suggest. Create your intersection stops, combines your near stops, combining your neighborhood stops, and then finally saving the stops. So it analyzes your whole district, all your map, your data, your student information, everything about them. And then it'll auto-create the stops for you. For fleet optimization, we have our tool is maintain fleet optimization. And this is, again, creating what ifs. I've created what if scenarios already. And each one is stored for me to come up and run with and look at any time. They're not made active until you say you make them active. So what happens is you give the routes a description. So if I wanted to do my elementary school kids, I would say elementary, AM for pickup, and I'm running this today, what's today, 04, what's today, 27? I forget what date.
26.
Okay, I forget the date. And then I say, okay, it's for my pickup. What's my maximum ride time? Well, the difference between ride time and travel time. Maximum ride time is the maximum time that the students are going to be on the bus. Travel time is the maximum including the driver's time. Because if the buses are all stored in one location, that's cool. It's still going to have to take him time to get to his first stop. Okay? So if you say the drivers can be on, starting 60 minutes, 90 minutes, however early they need to be, you can put that in there. And then so if the kids can't ride for longer than 50 minutes, go ahead, put in 50. Maximum travel time 60. Do you want the routes to be balanced based on the capacity of the buses, or do you want to fill them to capacity? Do you want to overload the buses? Now, when we're talking capacities, we're not talking just strictly how many benches. We're talking seat size. We're talking elementary school kids take up 1 seat, middle school kids get 1.5 seats, some high school kids take up a whole bench. So what happens is for each school, there's a default for each school, you say what's the default seat size, and then for the students that you know take up more than one seat, you put in what that student takes up, and then when it's doing the fleet optimization, it's going to count seats that that student takes up, and that's how it fills the bus, okay? So you can overload. Now you say, okay, I want to do my optimization based on a particular school, or based on a particular route, or based on a particular area. So if I have a zone, a boundary created already of kids that I want to optimize, I can do that. And then you pick. So I'm going to pick, I want it just my elementary school kids. I want everyone, but I don't want my KP because that's my afternoon kindergarten. I'm doing all the pickups. And then I want all of my kids. I've got 62 kids. Again, it's a demo database. Am I including my wheelchair special needs kids on this? I don't want to do that right now. I just want my regular ed kids. I just uncheck them. The bus, do I want to use a specific bus size, or do I want to use the buses from my fleet? So for you guys, if you pick elementary school, you'd have, lots of kids selected there. And then it would show you down at the bottom how many students you've selected, how many buses. So if you don't pick enough buses, it won't optimize until you pick enough buses to accommodate those number of kids. Again, using seats. Or, like I said, you can just say, I just want to try it with 72 passenger bus. If your standard bus is 72, where is the bus going to start at? Okay? And then you click optimize route. So let me close my other route just so it doesn't show in the background so you can see this running. So, optimize routes. First thing it's going to do, I want to you guys to see it in action. First thing it's going to do is it's going to put on the map all of the stops that it's considering for this optimization. See all the stops? They were first displayed in red, and then as it's calculating, can I put this on, can I put it on, is it exceeding the travel time, is it exceeding the ride time, is it exceeding the capacity, la 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 la, all the way down through it's creating the route for me. And then it'll keep trying different variations, different ways of getting that stop in the right stop order so that it's minimizing the travel time, minimizing the travel mileage, all of the different things that it takes into consideration, your hazardous roads, the bus can't do turnarounds, right, because that's a 72 passenger bus, so it's not doing turnarounds, it's going around the block. If you have, with our map, one of the things I didn't mention is you can put in turn restrictions based on size of bus. Okay, you've got this major road, like, a big bus coming up the street up here and trying to make a, mean left onto Airport Road. Sometimes that's not a easy one to do. So you can say, no, I don't want my bus making a left there. So you set that as a turn restriction again, once and done, for that particular size bus, and then it'll make sure that the bus does not make that turn. It'll make it go around the block or whatever it needs to do to get to the stop. So this is something that the system continues to, just keeps trying to get the kids all on the bus. Right now it's 17 of 36 stops, and I have a laptop and it's not as fast as, some good workstations out there, desktops work. So right now this is running Windows 10 too, so it's doing a little slower than I thought it would be. It should be done by now, but it's usually, as soon as it's done, then it'll display for me the routes that I came up with, and then you can actually scout, print out the bus schedule, print out the passenger list, print out the route cost. You can actually look at then what those routes would cost you to run them compared to what you're running your routes now. The route cost report includes everything from your fuel cost, your driver's salary, your aide salary, the mileage on the bus, different overhead, a percentage of your overhead cost. All of that gets into this route cost, and I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. So you can say, okay, right now this is what it's costing me. And that's why we offer, services up front to get all of your routes into your system to start off with. That way you do have a basis to start off with to compare what it's costing you. And then when you're done optimizing, see what it did save you. We actually have a benchmarks in the system here that'll compare 8 different KPIs for you based on other districts, like cost per rider, your spare bus percentage, cost per mile, different things. There's 8 of them, I'll show you that too. And it'll show you how you rate in comparison to the median across the United States. And then it'll give you a grade, A, B, C, D, F, depending on how you're doing. So now I can display the routes. And then that's how the fleet optimization works. It's specifically that. It shows you what it came up with. It shows you, it shows you the route cost. If I want to know what these routes cost right now, I can say based on a bogus number of $1 million, whatever that is of overhead, this is what my routes that I just ran for that optimization, that's how much it's going to cost me. If I want to look at what my route costs are for my other routes, do I have a route open now? No. Let me open up that other route I just had open. If I want to know what the route cost is for a route I have now, report, route costs. So I'm just picking bus 8 for everything, pick up and drop off. You'll be able to see what bus 8 is costing me. Again, fuel cost, driver aid, nurse. You can also assign nurses to buses now. Aides, yeah, so you can assign different things. And it's looking at the driver's salary that's based on the driver. It's in the system. With BusBus, you can manage drivers. That's another thing that's unique with us is you can manage all of your drivers and all of your driver requirements. All of the criminal, tons of them. We've got child abuse background, criminal background, defensive driving, auto driving tests, all the different things to make sure that they're legal. But then you can also get alerted when those things expire. When they get set up in the lookup tables, this is a user defined. You can set up staff requirements for anything, whether it's your drivers or your aides. You say what it is, how far in advance you want to be notified that they're about to expire. That way you make sure you renew them in time to keep them legal. So this list here you can add to, so if there's new requirements that come into play, you just add them, and then that will show up to be able to assign to drivers. Okay? So that was the fleet optimization. That's basically how that works. It tells you right away what the routes are, what the stops are that it put on the route. This is my route there. If I want to see what kids it put on, these are the kids that it put on. These are the stops that came in. And remember I said it looks at the ideal arrival time. So this is the kids that put on the route, and it makes sure that it got to the school by the ideal arrival time, which for elementary is 8:44. So it backtracks the start time based on the end time. Answer your question for fleet optimization?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So distinguishing ourselves, those are a lot of the things that a lot of our competitors don't do is specifically those things. The map is ours, the map you control, the map has all of these things that, like I just said, the turn restrictions are very easy to do. If I'm looking at a mean turn here, let me see if I can find a road that goes back on itself, or even if it doesn't. Do I have turn restrictions displayed? Yeah, let's see. Oh, here's one. Yeah, that corner right there. A bus coming up Chichester Road trying to make this turn, it would be impossible. So all you do is you do information on that intersection, and you say, okay, prevent that bus from making that turn for 54 and a 72 passenger. If you want all of them, you just select all. So no buses will ever make that turn.
Now, that was already preloaded.
Yeah.
Was that because you set it up, or because it comes that way?
No,
Okay.
the turn restrictions you definitely have to put in yourself. Yeah. There are height and weight restrictions too, so if there's, again, if there's roads that certain buses can't go over, certain bridges here don't allow, you set that road to have a height and weight restriction, and again, it'll prevent those buses from going over. So there's a lot that I can show you, and I know you guys, tired and have had a lot of things already shown to you, but the way BusBus works with routing is one of the things that I just want to make sure you understand, is we do have, when we're doing our routes, let me close the fleet optimizations, that's still open, no, cool. Okay, when we do our routes, you'll see that it lists the stops, and the stops are, again, located based on the descriptions of the stops, and we'll do that as part of the route conversion and data conversion. We'll go ahead and put all that information into the system for you. Now, BusBus determines the best way to go from stop to stop, based on shortest time or shortest distance, you tell it, taking into account all those other restrictions that I mentioned before. But if by chance you don't want it to go a particular way, say right now it's coming down this road and then making this right onto this road here. Well, to make it go another way and tell bus boss, no, I don't like that, I want my driver to come down this way, all you do is drag it. That updates the time, the miles, and the driving directions. See the driving directions there? Driving directions are automatically calculated based on the roads that it's traveling. If you don't like the order that it's doing, if you wanted to do, let's see, here, say you wanted to do stop, I'm just zoom in and out, I don't want to get anybody dizzy, you guys okay? Say I wanted to do stop 6 before stop 5. All I do is pick up stop 6 here, drag it up to 5, and it automatically routes it to go the other way, go to 5 and then. If I want the bus to force a turnaround, if I wanted to do, let's see, how can I force it? Do I have a force turnaround right in here, 2021? Okay, so say 20 to 21, I want it to go. I want it to go around the block. Then I can just drag it to go around the block. Oh, right now I don't have that split there. Let me do another one. 23 to 24. There you go. So say right now I'm coming from 22, I'm coming all the way up this way and coming over. That's probably because there's roadblock. Yep, there's a roadblock right there. So it has to go around. So now instead of it going around the block to go to 24, I can say no, do a turnaround. I just click here and I drag it back on itself. Oh, drag it back on itself, and now what did I do? That bad point. Drag it back on itself. There it is. And then now it'll just say turn around on riders and then turn left on upward. So you can force turnarounds if you wanted to, especially if you know that there's a place there that's a church parking lot or some place that you can do that. And then the times, the miles, the driving directions are all updated accordingly. If you want to put in a different time, if you know that this time here, instead of 8:05, is supposed to be 8:10, I just add a 5-minute here, and it changes that time and every time thereafter. Really, I mean, it's not anything difficult. With the routes themselves, you can have routes for different days of the week, Monday through Friday, the same as you can for your students. You can see here it's labeled as a wheelchair student there. We use icons to tell you that. This student here has a 10-minute load delay. He uses a wheelchair. He requires an aid on the bus. That comes right from the student record, so no matter what bus you assign him to, it's always going to go there. So if by chance, you change buses, he's going to grandma's now, he's going here to a daycare in the afternoon, you have different, drop-offs, pickups, and drop-offs, that information will carry with it to whatever bus you assign him to. So he's got bus 8 in the morning, bus 8 there, bus 20 on Tuesdays, split custody, he goes to dad's, and he's at Thornton Road on bus 8 too. So you can see all the different information, unlimited addresses. All of that comes from your student information system. We do have importing. If you guys, what are you using for your student information system?
School.
eSchool? SunGuard, right? SunGuard, eSchool? Okay, cool. We're working with them, actually. They just started working on an API. We have an API that we work with PowerSchool, where as soon as they add a kid, change a kid, withdraw a kid, it updates BusBus. As soon as we change routes in BusBus, it updates PowerSchool. PowerSchool has a transportation page. SunGuard has the same thing. So they just started working on their API so that we could do the same thing. So there is no manual importing and exporting. You can do manual importing and exporting here. It's part of BusBus. It's just found under the tools, import students. And you pick, the file format that you need. We accept all different kinds of file formats, ASCII text, CSV. So in the meantime, until SunGuard comes up with it, we can do a manual importing, or we can you can purchase what's called a custom data tool, and that imports on special designated times using a scheduled task. and then exports routing information based on a scheduled task. And that way they're updated every night if you want to work it that way. And it does all of it, from adding new kids, withdrawing kids, and making student changes all at the same time. Unique to us, one of the things that we do for importing is you can configure what you wanted to do during the import. Everything from auto-signing kids to bus stops, auto-signing them to routes, auto-signing rider eligibility. I know you guys have walk zones where kids can actually, are supposed to walk to school. So when it adds a new kid, it looks at his address, it looks at where he lives, it says, oh, he should be a walker, makes him a walker. Again, based on your zones or based on your walk to school distances, either one, you can use either one. With our data conversion services, we will bring in all of your boundaries, all your zones into the system. We'll bring in all your driver information, student information, schools, private schools, all of your certifications, anything that you want to give us up front, we will put that into the system for you. The route conversion, we bring all of your routes in, including the students assigned to the routes, which is, again, something that some of our competitors don't do. They'll put in the routes, but they won't assign the kids to the routes. So you don't have a full system. For us, it's as soon as we have everything in the system, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks is all we need to get everything in the system. 2 to 4 weeks, everything in there, including your routes. Then you can start implementing and managing from that day forward. So the importing does a lot of things. One of the things that's unique to us is the address. There's a lot of times where the secretaries will like to enter addresses the way they want to, and then there's addresses that are the right way. So what BusBus does is it compares the address that's coming in, and it asks you, it'll ask you, this is a new address. Is it a different address? Did this kid actually move? Because if the kid moved, now we got to determine what his new route's going to be. If you say it's the same address because the secretary entered Maine as M-A-I-N-E, but you have Maine as M-A-I-N, you say it's the same address, BusBus will never question you again. It'll save that information as the same address for that student and assume anytime it comes in as that, it's the same one. Okay?
You have the reports for the PD 1049.
There's a report. Yep, reports, state reports. We have a lot of state reports. The PDE, it generates the PDE. First it does the worksheet. And the worksheet, what it does the snapshot. Like I said, we save to history. Right there, it's calculating the miles with and miles without. It takes a snapshot for every month. And then it gives you the numbers that it's going to upload on the PDE right on your worksheet here. So it shows you miles with, miles without, number of pupils, total miles, and then your sample average method. Then once you have this already, then you can go ahead and generate your electronic file. Or print out your, 1049C, 1049O, print them out right away. We've added the PD 2517 for your contracted carriers. And then we have, again, checks and balances. It checks your data. So if you have invalid VIN numbers, it'll check that for you. Make sure you have valid VIN numbers. It'll check that you do have a cost in certain areas. There's certain things, that it checks first. If you want to upload it anyway, again, we're not going to prevent you. We're just going to alert you. Go ahead and generate that file, tell you where to put it, save that file, and now you're good to go. You gotta go, sorry.
We're going to lose a quorum soon.
It's 8 o'clock, yeah. So I don't want to go into the full. I know you guys are going to probably want another one once you get the data to me and so you can see it all, but I can answer questions if you guys have. I know. Did I babble too much? Did I lose you guys?
No.
So far, so good?
Yeah.
Good. But as you can see, we store lots of things. And for guardians, this is something that's unique to us. We do store their language. Are they allowed to meet them at a bus stop? Was it a court-ordered situation? For Great Valley, he had us add it's cutting it off. There's a multi-family thing where addresses, because you can have so you can have that approval show up on here to make sure that's covered. Transfers I mentioned, medical, physicians, if you need to assign physicians to the kids for their special needs, care requirements, anything that has to do with service animals, all of that. All of this does print out on the passenger list report for the driver. If you have photos, if you get them from Life Touch, I think it's the photo that is around here, you get that from them, or you just put them on your network somewhere. It matches the ID number on the file to the ID number for the student, and then it will use it on this report. There's all of your information that comes right from the student for the driver, Special needs, wheelchair aid, nurse, allergic to bee stings, all that stuff is on here right for them. If it's a split custody, it'll say over on the right-hand side that it's a split custody usage, so it may, the kid may not be around. You could put a will call in here, so that the driver only goes there if somebody calls and say to go there. There's just tons of different things. Route maps, if you want route maps, you can do those. You pick and choose, zoom levels, what you want on the maps, things like that. So you set it up however you want it, but you can see here, it shows turn by, on each map, all zoomed out, and then it includes the driving directions. Again, turn by turn directions, and any notes that you want at that stop. Like here's wait for mother, red brick barn in the back. That comes right from the stop. Does anything seem complicated? Because I know I went fast and I don't want it to seem like it's complicated.
I mean, if I were running the software, I'd need a lot of time to get used to it, I think, or at least a few hours playing around with it, but...
Yeah, I've actually had districts where they learn it themselves. We have a help site.
Oh, good.
So no matter where you're from, where in BusBoss you're from, I'm not going to have internet. So it'll take you out to the website, and it has videos. There's actual videos that'll show you, well, how do I add a stop? How do I sign a kid? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's got videos along to go with it, so you can see. And there's even notes. You can put in notes on the help site that you want to tell yourself, and you can make it a public note for you. You can make it a public note for your district, or a public note for all of BusBoss customers to know.
Something I just had a thought, when every year, and as far as I know, we still do this, when we're letting families know their bus stop, we send out letters for, I'll use my example. When I was in school, I received a letter for myself, and then my brother received a letter, and my sister received a letter. So that's 3 letters, 3 postage, 3 envelopes. And I was just thinking it would be fantastic if it could all be done online. Like each family would get an ID and they could just sign on and see online.
Well, first of all, there's different ways to inform parents. You can email them out of here. You can do bulk emailing, which then sends all the routing information out to the parents. And it's based on the email addresses that the students have assigned to them. And you can email, when you say bulk email, you can email the students too. You have the option to pick the students, that the students get the email to.
Wow, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we have an add-on called iBusBoss, and this is the parent portal. And that can also be used by staff, it could be used by contractors, it could be used by drivers. You decide what permissions they have to see in this iBusBoss program. And the username and password that's assigned for parents is their email address. So when they log in, they can only see the kids that are assigned with that email address. And they could see what stop, what bus, what time is scheduled for them for every day of the week. It also has a address lookup, where if you type in an address, it will show you if it's eligible for routing, if it's elementary school, what elementary school they would attend, if they're eligible or if they're not eligible, and if they are, it'll show them what bus, what stop, what time service is that address. You can make that a public or a private portal, that's up to you. With the iBusBoss, we're also adding on what's called Find Bus Ride, which is coming on now with the GPS tracking stuff, where they can actually, it'll show them, depending on where they're standing, it'll show them what stop is closest to them that's going to their school. So if they end up staying over at a friend's house, or kids nowadays, you never know where they're going to be, they can look up what stop to get on. And how far ETA, how far the bus is to that stop.
Well, that was even confusing. For my development, we had 2 bus stops, and they were both on the same road, and there was questions among some of the parents, well, which did we go to stop 1 or did we go to stop 2? Because it wasn't entirely clear.
Yeah. Well, the stop description is what's used. So if you tell it, the stop description is 125 alphanumeric characters. So if you say it's, 5th and Main in front of White House, 5th and Main in front of Yellow House, or whatever, you can put it in the description so you can really clearly see, everybody will know where that stop is. Okay, so you can email, you can send postcards, you can send out routing letters. There's tons of different ways, so. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, we can, we'll definitely be able to go into more detail later, but there's a lot I can show you. Trust me, I could be here for a long time. But basically, to get kids on routes, the only thing you really have to have in here is their name, their address, their school, and their grade. So everything else that we have is optional. You can use it. Oh, incidents, you can track incidents in here too. By the way, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Okay?
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time.
Well, not a problem, anytime. We're close, so if you guys need me, I can come by again, or if I confused anybody, I can sit down just with you. Okay?
Okay.
Are we just pushing all other discussions back to another meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question
That's
it
fine.
involves 3 committees: transportation, curriculum, and finance. Lauren's preparing the budget for next Wednesday. Obviously, with the vote last night, you're going to have to include any transportation cost into next week's budget. Also, Dane, you and I started discussing this briefly last night. Connor, for the curriculum committee, when I drove a bus here, everybody pulled into the middle school and no buses opened their doors till all the buses were in. Now they have buses doing split runs that are dropping kids off 20 minutes early, which means they're getting on a bus 20 minutes earlier than they have to. And it was done to save money. My understanding is it's not real controlled at the school. So I think we need to find out what it would cost to get rid of these split bus runs.
Sure.
You know, I think there's a lack of control, and you've got kids, when we talk to Preston McKnight, some kids go to the cafeteria, some kids go to their homeroom. I mean, it seems like you're just going hither and yon.
Well, what is your recommendation there to figure that out? A discussion in CNI as to what happens when the students get there?
Well, if you would just call Preston at the high school and Jenny at the middle school and find out how they're controlling the kids. If they're controlling the kids, the teachers don't start till a certain time. And then, Dane, if you'd have transportation committee find out how many of these split runs we have.
I'll handle both of those things. There's no point in, I mean, I'm on CNI anyway,
Okay.
and, I mean, that's fine.
And you're on finance.
Yeah, exactly, so exactly.
Busy guy.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, that's
But if you
fine.
could get this, because we're making this budget presentation next Wednesday, and
Yeah,
I'd hate to make the presentation and start changing the numbers immediately after.
all right. Yeah, I mean, I'll see what I can throw together.
I mean, if that's the best way to handle things for now, okay, but if we could do it at a reasonable cost and have better control, I think we should.
Right. Yeah, I'll see what I can find out, and then I'll have to talk to Ron, obviously. But I'll see what I can do. For next, you said next Wednesday?
Yeah, the 4th.
Yeah, that's our report for our preliminary final.
Thank you, Sonia, I appreciate you coming out.
Yep, thanks. Enjoy the beautiful weather.
Okay. I will, I'll see what I can get done between now and then. Any other questions or concerns at this time? Okay, thanks for everyone for coming. And sorry we didn't get to all the stuff on the agenda, but we weren't exactly sure how long these software presentations were going to take. And in case you guys don't know, we had a very long meeting last night, and I didn't want to draw this one out. Yeah, so we left executive session at what, like midnight?
That wasn't that late. We've had
I understand that.